Uh, Virgo, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now. Not slow down, not half listen while you scroll. Stop, because what I'm about to tell you is the kind of thing that if you receive it fully, if you let it land in the actual center of you rather than the polite outer edges, has the potential to change the way you walk through the rest of this year, maybe longer. Something enormous is coming toward you. And I chose that word deliberately: enormous. Not good, not exciting, not promising, enormous. The kind of arrival that doesn't ask your permission, the kind that doesn't care whether you've prepared adequately or whether the timing feels convenient or whether you've decided you're ready. It's coming because the accumulated weight of everything you've built, endured, released, and grown through has reached a kind of critical mass, and the universe, in its particular and impeccable mathematics, is about to balance the equation. A tsunami doesn't apologize for its size. Neither will this. Let me tell you what a tsunami actually is before it becomes a metaphor, because I think the science of it is as important as the symbolism. Out in the deep ocean, a tsunami is invisible, unfelt. A ship sailing directly over one wouldn't know it was there. The wave only becomes what it is as it approaches the shore, as the water beneath it shallows, as the energy that has been moving silently and invisibly across vast distances begins to gather itself upward, to rise, to become the visible, undeniable, extraordinary thing it always was. The power was always there. It was just moving through depths no one could see. Virgo, that's your story right now. The power has been moving through you at depths that weren't visible, not to the people around you, sometimes not even to yourself. You've been the ocean that looked still on the surface while something tectonic shifted beneath, and now the shore is close enough. The ground beneath has shallowed enough, and what has been building silently, invisibly, across more distance than you could measure is beginning to rise. What arrives in your life in this coming season will look sudden to everyone watching. It won't be sudden, it will be the logical, inevitable result of everything you've been. I want to acknowledge something before I go any further, because I feel it sitting in your energy like a splinter, small but present, slightly painful, in ways you've learned to work around rather than remove. You've been tired of waiting. Not impatiently tired, not the feverish, restless energy of someone who can't sit still, the deeper kind. The dignified exhaustion of someone who has kept their faith intact through a long, quiet stretch where very little seemed to be moving, where you did the work and didn't see the return, where you maintained your integrity when it would have been easier not to, where you continued to believe in the goodness of what was coming, even on the days it felt like a foolish thing to believe. That exhaustion is real and it deserves to be named. But here's what I also see in your energy: something running beneath the tiredness, like a current under ice. You didn't stop, you bent. You had the moments that everyone has, where the doubt was loud and the evidence thin, but you didn't stop. You recalibrated and continued. You grieved what needed grieving, and then, without making a production of it, you moved forward again. That continuation, that quiet, undramatic persistence is what the tsunami is made of. You built this, wave by wave, in the dark, without applause. Now, let me tell you what's in it. Because a tsunami isn't one thing, it's not one wave that arrives and recedes and leaves the shore exactly as it was. It's a series, each one carrying its own energy, its own payload, its own particular kind of transformation. And what's coming toward you arrives in layers. So let me walk through what I keep seeing because each current is distinct. The first wave is financial. There's a shift in your material circumstances that is so significant, it's going to require you to actually adjust how you think about your own life. Not a windfall in the lottery sense, nothing with that flavor of randomness. This has the feeling of something earned being finally, properly valued. A situation where the gap between what you give and what you receive closes in a way that makes you blink. A renegotiation of terms, of position, of what you're willing to accept as the baseline of your professional or financial existence that lands in your favor more substantially than you'd allowed yourself to expect. Money isn't the miracle. The recognition of your worth that produces the money, that's the miracle. That's the first wave. The second wave is relational, and it carries the most emotional weight. Something is resolving or arriving or both simultaneously. Because sometimes resolution and arrival are the same event wearing different faces depending on which direction you're looking. A bond deepens to a degree that reclassifies the relationship entirely. What was one thing becomes another thing, more committed, more honest, more willing to occupy the full truth of itself rather than the convenient, abbreviated version. Whether this is a romantic connection stepping fully into its own light, or a friendship that graduates into something that more accurately resembles family, or a professional relationship that becomes personal in the most meaningful way. The texture of your close world is about to change. And with that change comes something you've needed for a long time without always knowing how to name it. Belonging. Not the performance of belonging, not the smiling and nodding and making yourself pleasant enough to be tolerated, the real thing. The kind where someone knows the complicated version of you and stays, where you don't have to translate yourself, where you can take up the full amount of space your actual self requires, and the response from the people around you is not retreat but welcome. That second wave is going to carry you. The third wave, and this one is perhaps the most personally significant, even if it's the least immediately visible from the outside, is you, a version of yourself arriving that you haven't fully inhabited before. Not a reinvention. I want to be careful about that word because it implies something superficial, something cosmetic. This isn't about becoming someone different. It's about becoming someone more, more willing, more open, more trusting of your own instincts, more able to receive what you've always been generous enough to give. There's a specific quality to this new self that keeps revealing itself in this reading, and it's this: ease. Not the ease of having nothing to navigate, the ease of navigating things from a place of genuine inner security rather than fear. Moving through your life without the constant background hum of anxiety that tells you something is about to go wrong, something is missing, something needs to be managed before it becomes a problem. That hum, which you may have normalized into invisibility, is going to quiet. And in the quiet, you're going to discover how much energy you had been spending on it, how much of you was perpetually braced, and what becomes possible when that bracing is finally completely released. Something keeps arriving in this reading that I wasn't anticipating: a creative or visionary energy that feels almost urgent, like something that has been stopped up, dammed, pressed behind a wall of practical necessity or self doubt, or simply the bandwidth limitation of a life that asked too much of you for too long. That dam is breaking. Whether this expresses as literal creativity, art, writing, music, something made with your hands or your voice or your imagination, or whether it's more conceptual, a new vision for how you want your life to look, and the audacity to actually pursue it, something is pouring through. Pay attention to what wants to come out of you in this season. The ideas that arrive in the shower, or in the space between sleeping and waking, or in the middle of a conversation about something else entirely. The impulses you've been dismissing as impractical or premature or not the right time. The thing you keep almost starting and then setting aside because the moment never feels quite right. The moment is right. It may not feel right because genuinely right moments rarely announce themselves with trumpets. But the energy is absolutely clear. Something wants to be born through you, and the timing of its arrival is not coincidental. It is specifically, deliberately part of the tsunami. I want to talk about the people who are going to witness this shift in you because their reactions are going to be telling, and I want to prepare you for both. Some people in your life are going to rise to meet the new version of your circumstances with genuine joy. These are the ones worth noting. The ones who celebrated you even when you were in the in between, who held their faith in you when your own was threadbare, who never needed you to be diminished in order to feel secure in your relationship. Watch who celebrates. They are your people, and the tsunami brings you closer to them. But others, and I want to say this clearly and without drama, because the clarity matters more than the softness here. Others will be unsettled by your expansion, not because they're malicious, because your growth disrupts a relational ecosystem that required you to be smaller to function. Your rising changes the equation for people who built their sense of stability on a version of the dynamic that no longer exists. You are not responsible for managing that discomfort. This may be the most important thing I say in this entire reading. You are not responsible for making your own abundance palatable to people who benefited from your limitation. You do not need to shrink the tsunami to spare the feelings of those who preferred the calm water. Let it rise. Let it be what it is. The right people will stand on the shore and celebrate. There's a geographical quality to what's coming that I find fascinating, a sense of expansion in the literal sense, not just the metaphorical. New places, possibly, new environments, a different physical relationship with the world around you, whether that means travel or relocation, or simply the discovery that a space you'd never considered could become somewhere important to your story. Your world is getting larger, not more complicated, larger. There's a critical difference. Larger means more horizon, more possibility, more of the varied texture of human experience becoming available to you. The compass of your life is widening, and what you discover in the new territory is going to surprise you in the best way, because you'll find that who you are travels remarkably well, that the qualities you carry aren't niche or context dependent. They belong in more rooms than you've been placed in. They resonate with more people than you've had the opportunity to reach. The world has been a size too small for you for a while. That's correcting itself. Let me return to the water for a moment, because the image of it hasn't left this reading, and I think there's something more in it. After a tsunami, the shore is completely different, not destroyed. I want to be specific about this because the word tsunami carries fear. And what I'm reading in your energy is not destruction, but renovation. After the water recedes, the landscape is changed in ways both dramatic and subtle. Things that were cluttering the shore debris, sediment, the accumulated weight of what had been left there too long are gone, carried away. And what the water reveals beneath is bedrock, foundation, the true shape of the land, cleaned down to its essential, permanent self. That's what this season is doing to your life, carrying away the accumulated weight of what no longer belongs. The relationships that were taking up shore space without adding anything to the landscape. The habits of thought that were debris masquerading as structure. The limited definitions of what your life was allowed to be deposited there by other people's fears and your own old agreements with smallness. And what the wave reveals when it recedes is you unencumbered in the actual shape of your own life, with the foundation visible and solid and genuinely yours. Virgo, I want to say congratulations, and I mean it with the full weight of that word, not as a formality. Congratulations is a word we use for achievements, for milestones, for things earned, and all of this is earned, not handed, not stumbled into, not the result of luck wearing a convincing costume. This is the return on an investment of character, integrity, patience, and the particular kind of quiet courage it takes to keep believing in your own life when the evidence has been thin. You are owed this, not by the universe as some sentimental obligation. In the deepest, most structural sense, the way cause is owed its effect, the way a seed is owed its flowering, if the conditions finally align. The conditions have aligned, the mathematics have resolved, the wave that has been building across more distance than you'll ever fully know is arriving at your shore. Open your arms, not cautiously, not with the hedged half welcome of someone who is still waiting for the catch, with your whole chest, with the generous, unhesitating reception you have given to everyone else's good news for years. This time, the good news is yours. One final thing, and this is perhaps the most important, so I want you to carry it forward from this reading and let it live in you. The tsunami doesn't change who you are. It reveals who you always were. Everything that arrives, the recognition, the abundance, the deeper love, the expansion, the creative outpouring, the version of yourself that moves through the world with ease, none of it is being added to you from outside. It's being uncovered from within. It was always there. You just needed the wave large enough to clear what was covering it. You were always this. You are finally, gloriously, completely allowed to know it. I'd love to know in the comments what part of this landed hardest for you. What is the one thing you felt this reading saw that you haven't said out loud yet? Share it. Someone reading your words will feel less alone.